Touching tale, struggling mechanic dad discovers his heartwarming connection to a millionaire he never knew he needed. In the small Midwest town of Oak Ridge, Mike Johnson woke each day before dawn, the sun still a mere ember on the horizon. The world was quiet, but the sounds of clanging metal, hissing air, and his trusty coffee maker filled the garage. As a single father chasing shadows of a life lost, Mike faced each new day armed with grease-stained hands and a broken heart. It was here, amidst the scent of oil and burnt rubber, that he fought to keep his family's legacy alive, determined to raise his teenage daughter, Emily, after losing his beloved wife to cancer. But the town had changed. Whispers looped around him like a fraying belt. Neighbors who once nodded in sympathy now cast sidelong glances. Just another struggling mechanic. The weight of the mounting bills felt like a giant anvil on his chest, blurring the joy of fixing cars with dark thoughts of inadequacy and self-worth. As summer crept in, gossip flared like a firework. A wealthy businessman named Tom had come to town, stirring envy and admiration. When Tom's luxury car sputtered to a stop right outside Mike's garage, the world around him fell silent, his heart pounding in sync with the ticking clock. Here was a man wrapped in polished suits, oblivious to the grit and grind of grease under fingernails. A collision of their worlds seemed inevitable. "Need a hand?" Mike asked, a wink of sincerity thrown in, but there was tension in the air like static before a storm. As he lifted the hood, conversations unfolded. Tom's stories of high-stakes deals echoed starkly against Mike's humble tales. Yet, beneath the surface, they both longed for something deeper, a sense of family that transcended the luxuries of life. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days passed and their friendship deepened, Tom opened up about the pressures of success and how the weight of the world often crushed his spirit. Mike began to take on a role he never expected: a mentor, perhaps even a friend. Together, they began to redefine what family truly meant, fostering respect for each other's journeys. But all that goodwill strained under the fury of an unexpected storm. Rain lashed against their town, wind howled like a wounded wolf, and power flickered out, leaving shadows dancing in the dark. With debris strewn everywhere, Mike and Tom found themselves huddled together, protective instincts kicking in. They worked late into the night, shoring up local businesses with their hands, a mechanic and a businessman acting as one. Then, a revelation shattered the fragile peace. Secrets buried in the muck of rumor surfaced, revealing truths that threatened their bond. The sparks of community pride collided with age-old biases, igniting heated conversations about worth that Mike grappled with long before Tom ever arrived. Standing on the precipice of change, they could feel a shift in the air, a collective breath, as both men faced beyond their differences. Would they rise to the challenge together, or would the storm sweep the hope they had ignited into the abyss of doubt? With the townsfolk watching, Mike couldn't help but wonder, could their friendship truly bridge the gap between rich and poor, or was it just an illusion waiting to shatter? The storm raged, but it was the brewing storm inside them that truly threatened to break. The air crackled with tension as Mike and Tom stood shoulder to shoulder, debating the future that lay before them. The storm had passed, but its aftermath lingered like a stain on the town's spirit. Debris scattered across the streets was a stark reminder of the emotional cleanup they needed to undertake. Tom clenched his jaw, frustration bubbling beneath his polished surface. "Do you think they'll ever see me as anything more than just some rich guy?" he asked, his voice low but vibrating with urgency. The shadows of doubt hung around him, as heavy as the silt pooling in the rain-soaked gutters. Mike studied him for a moment, the man dressed in fine fabrics that felt worlds away from his own grease-stained coveralls. "Not if you keep standing up there," he replied softly, gesturing towards the ruins of a local shop, roof nearly gone. "They need to see you get your hands dirty, just like the rest of us." Tom's eyebrows shot up, surprise flickering across his face. The notion of rolling up his sleeves was foreign. He had always lived in a bubble created by wealth, untouched by the struggles of everyday folks. Yet, something within him shifted at Mike's challenge. "I'll do it." The words tumbled from Tom's mouth before he could think them through. The sudden resolve surprised even him. Days turned into weeks as the duo worked tirelessly. Tom began to shed the trappings of his former life, finding a sense of purpose in the sweat and labor that accompanied helping others. They repaired roofs, cleaned up streets, and organized community dinners, a humble gathering meant to lift spirits. As laughter began to echo against the backdrop of shared hardship, Mike felt something shift inside him, too. Emily watched her father with a mixture of pride and worry. She often saw the flickers of joy in his eyes as he and Tom forged connections with their neighbors. Yet, she sensed the undercurrents of change that whispered uncertainty. Would her father lose himself in the quest to bridge the divide between them and the man whose wealth had once seemed so foreign? One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, Emily sat with her father after another long day. "Dad," she started hesitantly, glancing at the way he smiled when he talked about Tom and their adventures. "Are you sure this is what you want? What if it doesn't change anything? What if it makes things worse?" Mike turned to her, pensive but steady. "I don't know, Em. But I have to try. Our struggles, they're real, every bit of it. But so is this chance. It's about the people we're bringing together, that sense of community we're building. Isn't that worth something?" She considered his words, weighing them, struggling to reconcile the man she loved with the uncertain road he was walking. "Just be careful, okay? I don't want to see you hurt." The sincerity in her voice made him reach for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You're my first priority, always." As the community began to thrive amidst the shared labor, an unexpected visitor arrived in town. A newspaper reporter sought out the duo, eager to tell their story. The potential of spreading their message of community and connection loomed large, but with it came the risk of media scrutiny. What would this newfound attention mean for both men? Could this exposure strengthen their bond, or would it simply lay bare the divides they were trying to mend? As a report was drafted, Mike stood at the crossroads of hope and fear, uncertain of what the headlines might dictate. Folding the unfinished article, he realized their story was only just beginning. Where would their friendship take them next, and would the town accept them after all? The answers hung over him like a rain cloud ready to burst. The morning light spilled through the broken windows, casting a soft glow atop the makeshift tables scattered around the community center. Mike watched as Tom chatted animatedly with local residents, laughter filling the air. The warmth of connection had grown tangible, yet unease nestled in the back of Mike's mind. Would this newfound camaraderie stand the test of curiosity from the outside world? "What do you think they'll say?" Mike asked Tom during a rare quiet moment. A nearby table buzzed with chatter, but here, they found an isolated corner among the clutter of wood and tools. Tom rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous habit Mike had come to recognize. "I don't know. I hope it sheds light on what we're doing, but I worry." His voice trailed off, revealing the underlying tension. He was still that rich guy in many eyes, no matter how much paint he splattered on his shirt. "What are you afraid of?" Mike pushed, crossing his arms. "That they'll see you as who you really are. That you care." "Maybe it's not that simple," Tom replied, glancing away. The cracks of uncertainty were there, subtle but potent. Just then, Emily walked in, her face brightening at the sight of her father. She had been watching from a distance, her heart swelling with pride. But now, concern shadowed her expression. "Hey Dad, I've been hearing whispers about the article. What if it doesn't go well? What if everything we've built comes crashing down?" Mike opened his mouth to respond, but the words stumbled. He had no perfect answer. He wanted to reassure her, tell her that they were changing lives, that they were doing something good. But doubt clawed at his heart. Whatever happens, we stick together. That's what matters. They formed a united front, but the weight of the world felt heavy on all their shoulders. Days rolled by, and the evening of the article's publication approached like a storm gathering on the horizon. Mike and Tom gathered with the community in the center for a meeting. There were chairs organized in a circle, faces illuminated by the faint glow of light bulbs hung overhead. Kids ran around joyfully, their laughter proving contagious. As they settled in, the air thickened with expectation. Mike stood to address the crowd, casting a glance at Tom, who nodded, a silent show of support. Tonight, we stand together. No matter what comes of this article, we've forged something important. What we've built is real. Cheers erupted, voices mingling in agreement, fueling their resolve. For the first time in weeks, Mike sensed hope rising above doubt. But that flicker was short-lived when he spotted Helen, the local skeptic, crossing her arms at the back. A frown creased her brow as she leaned against the wall, skepticism oozing from her. "Does the rich guy really care?" she called out, her voice cutting through the buzz. Tom's face paled, embarrassment creeping across him. Mike felt a hard knot in his own stomach. They had fought hard to earn the town's respect, and here was a reminder of how thin that ice remained. Before Mike could think, he took a step forward, meeting her gaze head-on. What if he does? What if it's worth it for everyone here? His conviction rippled through the room, punctuating the uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. Tom straightened, drawing strength from Mike's words. "I'm here to help, I promise. This is more than just a story to me. It's about every one of you who believed in us." Helen was quiet for a moment, and the crowd held its breath, unsure if the moment would be a breakthrough or a setback. But the flicker of defiance in her eyes softened, if only slightly. As the evening wore on, hopes and fears danced together, intertwining like the threads of their community tapestry. For Mike, the battle had only just begun, as the looming attention threatened to define their journey. In the depths of doubt, he felt something shift within him, a flicker of courage igniting. But then word started to spread. An anonymous threat against Tom's reputation surfaced, shared on social media like wildfire. What awaited them in the light of the next day? Would they be catapulted into a fight to defend their bond? The storm of scrutiny was upon them, and as Mike braced himself for what was ahead, he wondered if their fragile connection could survive the chaos. Would the heart of their community resist the blast, or would it unravel everything they'd worked for? Mike sat on the edge of a rickety chair, heart racing as the screen flickered with notifications. Each ping cut through the growing unease that wrapped around the community center like a heavy blanket. He glanced at Emily, who was scrolling fiercely on her phone, her brows knitting together in concern. "Dad, you need to see this," she said, her voice barely a whisper, yet dripping with urgency. He leaned closer, reading the inflammatory remarks directed at Tom. Overprivileged. Out of touch. Words like knives sliced through the room, igniting a fire of outrage. The comments were quick, sharp, and bitter, the kind that made the weight of shame settle squarely back on Tom's shoulders. Tom stood nearby, physically present, yet his gaze was fixed downwards, absorbing the blow. "Maybe they're right," he murmured, his voice nearly swallowed by the thrumming silence. Mike bristled at his friend's words. "No, Tom. You're doing good. You've earned that respect. This community needs you." But Tom's face betrayed him, frustration, guilt, and defiance all mixed into one expression. "I don't think they'll ever see it like that. The gap between us feels too wide. Too many people think I've intruded into their lives with a selfish agenda." Emily piped up, "But you're not. You're part of this now. You care." Mike could sense the tension in the room rising as residents exchanged uneasy glances. Helen leaned forward, her expression still doubtful but less hostile. "It's not just about you, Tom. They're scared. The town is scared of changing too quickly. People resist what they don't understand." As the air thickened with confusion, Mike felt the urge to rally the crowd, to stoke the fire of their collective spirit. We are more than a bunch of opinions online. Look around. We're family. It doesn't matter who has more money or connections. What matters is what we do together. The words echoed, but doubts lingered. Helen's skepticism remained, though tensions began to ebb. Maybe we should show them what this place has become, a tangible testament to our hard work, our connection. The glimmer of an idea sparked in Mike's mind. What if we organized a community fair? A showcase of everything we've accomplished together since Tom came here: art, food, crafts, music. Let them see who we are. The suggestion hung like a pulse in the air, first met with silence and then a tentative murmur of excitement. Children's laughter floated in from outside, a golden reminder of what they were fighting for. One resident spoke up, voicing what many felt: we can open our doors, invite the world in. Show that we're a community standing together. Encouragement rippled through the group as they started to brainstorm ideas: activities, food stalls, performances. Tom was drawn into the planning, the weight on his shoulders appearing a little lighter, a hint of hope creeping back in. But just as plans solidified, Mike's phone buzzed again, flashing another message on the screen. The onslaught of comments continued. Words that cut deeper: fraud, fake, it will all come crashing down. The energy in the room shifted again as doubt re-entered the atmosphere. If they don't understand who we are, will they want to come? Mike felt the weight of fear in his chest, overshadowing the brief moment of unity. Tom stepped forward, resolute. They have to see us, it might change their minds. But we need to stand firm. Can we do this? The room vibrated with a shared determination, but doubts continued to bubble beneath the surface. As they began to plan the fair, Mike sensed another storm brewing: a battle for acceptance, for understanding. Would it lead to connection and community, or would it spark further division among them? And what awaited them as the fair approached? Would they find strength in unity, or would the world see them fractured under pressure? Mike's fingers trembled slightly as he placed his phone down, the room now a mixture of determination and underlying anxiety. With the plans for the fair slowly taking shape, he felt a need to anchor the group, to remind them why they were fighting. Listen, he began, pushing himself to stand straighter, we need to focus. This fair. It's not just an event. It's a statement. We're more than those comments online. Tom nodded, the flicker of hope in his eyes igniting again. What if we combined all our talents? Have a mural that everyone contributes to, a visual testimony of unity. A chorus of excited chatter erupted around him, ideas flying like confetti. Hands raised, residents leaned in closer, their faces lighting up with new possibilities. Emily was bright-eyed, jotting down suggestions, her enthusiasm infectious. As they discussed activities: face painting, storytelling, local bands playing under the sun, Helen's voice pierced the air, bringing them back to ground zero. Is all this enough? What if they still don't accept us after the fair? A sudden hush fell over the group, a shared breath caught in collective uncertainty. Then we show them who we are, Mike asserted, tapping the table for emphasis. Through our stories, our laughter, and our openness. Let them see the color of our lives, not just the words they type. Tom's gaze shifted around the room, meeting the eyes of each resident. We're not defined by others' perceptions. We have to prove that we're a family here, standing shoulder to shoulder. The idea of the mural sparked an unexpected energy among them. Soon they discussed colors, themes, layers of meaning that reflected their history, and their joint aspirations for the future. There was something about physical collaboration that seemed to siphon the negativity into something constructive. As the meeting dragged on, a mixture of laughter and serious discussions wove through the air, and the initial fears started to drift further away. Hours passed, but no one seemed to mind. They were in this together. When finally they gathered to close the meeting for the night, there was a sense of purpose among them, a new bond formed. Mike felt lighter, the vision of the fair steadily sharpening in his mind. Yet as they were wrapping up, another notification popped up on his phone: a photo had been posted. It was a picture of Tom, laughing with a child at the center, but the caption was loaded with barbed words, questioning his authenticity yet again. Mike's heart sank. See? They won T let up. Or maybe they'll see something different once we show them what we can do, Tom said, quiet yet unwavering. We can't give up. Not now. Yeah, Mike replied, biting his lip thoughtfully. We have to keep pushing forward. This means so much more than just a fair. The residents slowly filtered out, their conversation still buzzing like bees. Mike lingered behind with Emily and Tom, the enormity of the task ahead weighing heavily again in the silence wrapped around them. As he locked eyes with Tom, he realized there was more at stake than community acceptance. It was their resilience as a unit against doubts, against harsh words. Can we really change their minds? Emily asked softly. Mike took a deep breath, the air filled with both hope and uncertainty. We can try. But what if the change isn't just their minds? What if we end up changing us? Tom gave a quiet smile, his resolve strengthened. Then let us embrace it. Let us show our truth. With that, the seeds of a new story began to sprout. But as they stepped out into the night air, Mike's thoughts tangled with the biting comments still flooding in. Would the town's acceptance blossom, or would they remain trapped in the storm of misunderstanding? The bright lights of the community center flickered behind them, illuminating the path ahead. Uncertainty hung just above their heads, but beneath it was a burgeoning alliance, ready to face what came next. Would the fair ignite a new beginning, or would the community remain divided? The morning sun streamed through Mike's window, casting stripes of light across the room. He blinked against the brightness and stretched. The fair was only a week away, and with each passing day, the weight of expectation felt heavier. He could still hear his own words echoing in his mind, we have to show them who we are. As he pulled on his jeans, the morning news blared from the tiny television. The headline segment featured yet another commentary focused on the upcoming fair, framing it through critical lenses that Mike had grown accustomed to. Tension twisted in his stomach. He shook off the angry thoughts and headed out the door, determined to make the day count. At the community center, volunteers were already filtering in, energized by the upcoming event. Emily was arranging chairs, while Tom was busy hanging bright-colored paper lanterns. The sight made Mike smile. Their spirit was contagious. Hey, Mike. Emily called, her voice bubbling with excitement. Look what I found. She held up a handful of colorful paint tubes. We can use these for the mural. Perfect. Mike replied, stepping closer. Let us think of a color palette that represents all of us. As they discussed, Helen entered, breathing heavily as if she had run a marathon. You won't believe what I just heard. Some people are planning to protest at the fair, she gasped, her eyes wide with worry. The room fell silent. Mike could see the anxiety creep across Tom's face, and Emily looked ready to cry. Protest? Why would they do that? Tom murmured, his shoulders slumping. Because they don't want us here. They think we're too different, Helen admitted, biting her lip. But we can't let them ruin this. We can't hide. Mike felt a surge of anger, hot and immediate. If they want to protest, let them. But we'll stand tall and show them what we're made of. What if it makes things worse? Emily whispered, looking down at her hands. No, Mike said firmly, his resolve hardening. We are not going to let them intimidate us. We've worked too hard. He spread his arms wide, embracing the nervous energy swirling around them. This is about more than the fair. It's about us being ourselves and celebrating who we are. Let us make our voices heard even louder. The tension in the room began to ease. Emily straightened, and Tom's shoulders squared with determination. Together, they shared a collective breath of resolve. They brainstormed ways to make the mural even more captivating, adding layers of individual stories that would encompass their hopes, dreams, and identities. Each stroke of color would be a testament to their journey, an invitation to join their family rather than a protest against it. Later that day, as they worked on sketches, Mike's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was different. It was a video, live streaming from a small group of locals gathering outside the community center, spewing their protests. A chill washed over him. "Look," he said, showing Tom and Emily the screen. Emily's face paled as seconds ticked by, her fingers gripping the edges of the table. "What if they show up in force?" "We'll be ready," Mike replied, his determination unwavering. "They might think they can silence us, but we'll be louder. We'll paint our truth for everyone to see." Tom nodded. "If we go with love, how can they fight against that?" But as they exchanged determined glances, a knot began to form in Mike's stomach. What if love wasn't enough to counteract hate? And somewhere in that moment of doubt, the community fair transformed from a celebration to a battleground. Would love truly conquer all, or would they find themselves outnumbered as they tried to claim their space? With the sun now dipping beyond the horizon, fatigue mingled with trepidation. Yet, deep beneath the worry, Mike felt an ember of hope flickering, daring him to believe they could rise against the odds. With the fair upon them, would they stand united, or would their light be dimmed in the face of adversity? The next morning, the air felt electric. Mike awoke with uncertainty gnawing at him. The fair was today, and the protests had intensified since last night. He dressed quickly, the message from Helen replaying in his mind, "Don't let them ruin this." The community center buzzed with activity as everyone prepared. Colorful banners hung from the ceilings, a mosaic of hope and resilience. Mike could see Emily touching up the mural, bold strokes creating a vivid picture of their shared dreams. Tom and others were assembling booths, laughter punctuating the air with fleeting moments of normalcy. "Hey, Mike!" Emily called out cheerfully, her energy infectious. "Come check this out." He walked over, and for a moment, he forgot about the looming protests. The mural had transformed. It now radiated with energy. Each color burst spoke of stories shared, of challenges overcome. But as the laughter echoed around him, a shadow passed over his heart. He spotted a group across the street, holding signs, their faces locked in grim determination. Mike felt the knot tighten in his stomach again. "They're really here." Emily followed his gaze. "They look more than a little serious." Her words were heavy with concern. "Yeah." Mike exhaled slowly. "But we can't let them distract us. We owe it to ourselves to focus on what we came here to do. Celebrate and show who we are." The group nodded, a collective understanding settling among them. They quickly discussed their plan. Everyone, especially Mike, knew that staying positive was their strongest weapon. "Let us keep painting, keep celebrating," he encouraged. "They can't take our joy if we don't allow it." As moments passed, the community center swelled with attendees. Families arrived in droves, smiles brightening the atmosphere. Mike felt a flicker of hope, replaced momentarily by the vibrant spirit of the celebration. Laughter mixed with music, and the first smiles spread like wildfire, reminding him of why they were gathered. Then came the first shout from the protesters. "Go home." It boomed through the air, stark and heavy. Mike's heart raced. People around him tensed, glancing at one another with uncertainty. Emily squeezed his hand, and Tom clenched his fists. Yet, instead of retreating into fear, a wave of courage washed over Mike. He stepped forward, eyes resolute. "Let us give them a reason to listen." With the first brush stroke, he painted a giant sun onto the mural, its rays stretching out, symbolizing warmth and acceptance. "This is what we stand for," he yelled, his voice breaking through the noise. "Love. Acceptance. Community." Slowly, others around him joined in. Each person picked up a brush, adding their own colors to the mural. It became an act of defiance, an expression of their truth. As they painted, a few protesters moved closer, their expressions confused, some curious, others angry. Mike could see them whispering among themselves. He took a breath, trying to connect with the fear he saw beneath their anger. It was a reflection of his own. Just keep painting, he urged Emily and Tom, their faces lit up with renewed determination. Let us show them who we are. We're not afraid. With every stroke, they started to drown out the shouts, painting over hate with a tapestry of stories and unity. But their emotions shifted when, unexpectedly, one protester took a step from the shadows of defiance toward the light of acceptance. As he stood there, the uncertainty in his eyes mirrored the struggle that had bound Mike's heart, and the others began to notice, drawn to this moment. Would this tiny step toward understanding bridge the gap, or would it only fuel the fire of division? The tension in the air was palpable as Mike noticed the young protester inching closer, drawn in by the vibrant colors and the energy of the mural. The shouts from the crowd began to soften, a tentative curiosity taking their place. Mike kept painting, each stroke a declaration of hope and acceptance, but his eyes flickered back toward the protester. "Hey!" Mike called out, lifting his paintbrush like a peace offering. "You want to help?" The words hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation wrapped in one. The protester, a tall guy with a weary face, hesitated. For a moment, uncertainty crinkled his brow. Mike could see the conflict within him, loyalty to friends versus the pull of something bigger. The mural, the colors, the laughter, it was a vision of what could be. With a gulp of resolve, the protester took another step closer. "I am not really into this kind of stuff," he replied, voice low. "But it looks nice." His cautious tone carried a hint of vulnerability that caught Mike off guard. "Nice?" Mike echoed, a grin breaking across his face. "We're making it beautiful. Come on, just add a stroke. You've got nothing to lose." He gestured to the bright canvas waiting to be touched, an open call to anyone willing to unite rather than divide. The protester's eyes flicked between the mural and the small group surrounding it. Finally, he shuffled forward, grabbing a brush splattered with yellow paint. "All right, but don't laugh if I mess it up." There was a tentative smile on his lips, eyes brightening as he dipped the brush into the paint. "Not a chance." Mike beamed, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We're all learning together." As the protester added his stroke, a ripple of applause broke out among the others, surprising everyone, including him. The collective cheer was contagious, and soon laughter filled the air again. The others noticed too. People who had stood rigidly on the sidelines began to move closer, eyes wide with curiosity, hope evident in every hesitant step they took. A few of them, alongside the protester, ventured forward to pick up brushes, exchanging tentative jokes and glances of camaraderie. "Hey, Mike!" Emily shouted, her vibrant smile infectious. "I think we might just turn this into a real community mural." "Yeah, who knew a little paint could break down walls?" Tom added, nudging his friend with exhilaration. Small moments of transformation shifted the atmosphere from anxiety to connection. Yet, in the back of Mike's mind, a voice whispered the dangers of losing sight of the true fight amidst this wave of inspiration. From the other side, the protesters stood at a distance, expressions mingled with confusion and intrigue. They had started to witness something unexpected, a bridge forming where they thought only division existed. Still, Mike's heart raced as he looked back toward the protesters, especially the ones who hadn't moved. Would they see this as an invitation or an affront? He pressed his brush harder against the canvas, fervently hoping the colors would shout more loudly than the slogans they held outside. Suddenly, from the corner of his vision, he saw a figure breaking away from the protest, approaching slowly. As the crowd began to turn, silence fell once more over the fair, eyes narrowing, breaths holding, even the music seemed to fade. Who was it, and would their presence spark understanding, or would it reignite the flames of conflict once more? The figure emerged in the dim light of the fair, stepping with a confident yet measured pace. Mike squinted, trying to make out the distant details. It was a woman, her long hair cascading over a fitted leather jacket. In that moment, all he could feel was the weight of possibility hanging thick in the air around them. As she drew closer, he recognized her. It was Rachel, one of the leaders of the protest. Her reputation for fierce advocacy preceded her. The colors of the mural glared brightly against her serious demeanor, a stark contrast that made his stomach churn. Would she dismiss what they were doing as mere folly? Or could she see the humanity they were trying to stitch together? Mike's grip tightened around his brush. He didn't need to know her well to feel the gravity of her presence. The laughter and clapping from the crowd began to die down, replaced by a suffocating tension that made it hard for him to breathe. "Rachel!" A familiar voice called out from the crowd. It was one of her fellow protesters, eyes filled with concern. "What are you doing?" Her gaze flickered toward her friends, their apprehensive expressions mirroring her own inner turmoil. "I just came to see what was happening," she replied softly, though her tone suggested a struggle between duty and curiosity. Mike felt the heat of her stare. He had a choice to make. He could either hide beneath layers of silence or extend a gesture of hope. "Hi, Rachel." He called out, forcing a smile that felt both genuine and shaky at the same time. "We're making a mural to bring everyone together. Want to help?" Her expression shifted, uncertainty mingling with interest. "Help? With that?" She motioned toward the mural, painted in vibrant hues of orange, blue, and green, now alive with the laughter of a diverse community. "Exactly," he replied, "it's a way to share our hopes, to show that we can build something together instead of tearing it apart." The words came rushing out, fueled by inspiration and something deeper, a yearning to connect. Rachel studied him, her eyes narrowing as if weighing his sincerity against her commitment to a cause she deeply believed in. Around them, the crowd shifted, waiting with bated breath for her answer, creating a bubble of anticipation that felt electric. "All right," she finally said, her voice steadying. "But only if everyone else joins in." There was a challenge within her eyes, and Mike felt a rush of excitement blend with the anxiety gathering in his chest. To his surprise, the group erupted into cheers of agreement, eager to support her. Even the young protester, who moments ago had been so hesitant, threw his fists into the air in triumph. Mike couldn't suppress the grin that spread across his face. This was at the moment where fear began to dissolve into something beautiful. As Rachel stepped forward, brushes were handed to her, paint splattered over her hands. "What do you want me to do?" she asked, a budding smile tugging at her lips. "Just add a little color," Mike said, excitement bubbling inside him. Their arms moved almost as one, as colors mingled and dripped down the canvas, laughter erupting in bursts that shattered the tension between them. In that moment, Mike understood. Change wasn't just about slogans or protests, it was about the connections they formed as people. But before he could dwell on this revelation, he noticed a more considerable shift in the crowd. The remaining protesters were watching, expressions shifting from skepticism to cautious intrigue. Would they approach? Would they join in? Would a mural be enough to bridge this vast divide? As he watched Rachel blend a shade of blue into the strokes of the mural, he felt a swell of hope. Could this be the start of something? But even as hope flickered, a distant shout echoed through the fair, jolting Mike from his thoughts. "What's happening over there?" It was a shout from the other side, filled with anger and frustration. And just like that, the air grew thick with uncertainty again. Would they find understanding, or would everything fall apart? In the heart of the fair, the atmosphere charged with a mix of bonded laughter and trepidation, Mike felt a wave of determination wash over him. He watched as Rachel painted beside him, her brush gliding over the canvas. The mural was morphing into a vibrant testament of their journey, a colorful tapestry of laughter, stories, and a shared future. But just as hope swelled around them, the tension from the distant shout loomed. Mike's heart raced, fearing another storm on the horizon, something that could snatch away the warmth they were beginning to build. What if the understanding they were forging faded under a cloud of confrontation? "Let us not lose this moment," Tom said, stepping to Mike's side. His expression reflected both optimism and concern. We need to stay strong. Right, Mike replied, squaring his shoulders as he surveyed the crowd. If we stay united, they might see the beauty we're creating. This is bigger than just us. As the murmur of dissent grew louder, an intention sparked within him. They had created something pure, forged in the heat of struggle, and it was time to show their resolve. He lifted his voice above the gathering noise, "Let us keep painting. This is our stand." One by one, brushes dipped into colors, everyone joining in to fill the canvas with more intentional strokes. The mural overflowed with vibrant hues, capturing the essence of their community, a visual cry against division, a symbol of resilience woven with their shared hopes. The protest had drawn ever nearer, but the energy shifted. More faces turned toward the mural, their expressions caught between anger and intrigue. "Look at what we're creating." Emily chimed in, the sparkle in her eyes igniting the crowd's enthusiasm. "Join us, and you can be part of this too." Mike's gaze flitted between the protesters and the increasingly engaged crowd by the mural. He noticed a few protesters casting uneasy glances at the art taking shape. Could the flame of community growth illuminate their hearts? He prayed it could, he prayed it would. As another voice from the protest shouted again, the words grew harsher. "You think painting will solve anything? You're still the same people you were yesterday." That defiance echoed, threatening to douse their newfound warmth. But Mike wouldn't relent. He turned, conviction blazing in his eyes. "What we're doing is a start. We're showing our humanity, our love. Aren't we all tired of shouting? Isn't this a chance to listen?" For an instant, silence cloaked the gathering. Then, a ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, a dwindling fire of animosity softened to curiosity. Mike felt the weight in the air lighten, a fragile vein of understanding threading through the throng. Rachel looked at the other protesters, then back to Mike, uncertainty dancing in her gaze. Maybe we need to hear each other." She glanced towards her friends, who exchanged cautious looks. "Maybe it's about more than just protest." "Yes." Mike stepped forward, reaching across the gap of perceived differences. "Let us share stories. Let us talk about what brought us here." He gestured to the mural, a canvas created by love, labor, and openness, a shared journey in color and light. "You're welcome to join in. To add your colors." Around him, uncertainty began to peel away, replaced by curiosity. The distant shouts diminished to whispers, and Mike could feel the flickering ember of hope reigniting in the eyes of those who had once stood fiercely against them. Handing Rachel a clean brush, he offered her the space to paint her truth alongside his. "This is yours too," he said gently. "Paint your story here. Let the world see how we can grow together." Randolph, one of the protesters closest to Rachel, stepped forward hesitantly. He accepted a brush, hesitated momentarily, and then dipped it into a vibrant hue. "I'm willing to listen." The crowd drew closer, their breaths a mix of anticipation and apprehension. As more began to approach, Mike felt his heart swell with a sense of unity. Each stroke of paint became a conversation, his hopes intertwining with Rachel's truths, their lives merging on that canvas. It became a celebration of their humanity, a declaration that differences could reshape into strengths. The crowd rallied, building a joyful energy that eclipsed the darkness of dissent. Applause erupted, laughter mingled with curiosity, and people joined hands around the canvas, eyes sparkling with possibility. But across the street, faces still wore skepticism. An older protester, standing behind the throng, continued to frown, arms folded tight. "This can't fix anything," they called out, their voice strained with doubt. "You're just masking the problem." "Are we?" Mike turned to them, drawing closer. "Or are we showcasing a path forward? We're not pretending life's easy. But together, we can share our burdens and celebrate our triumphs. It's time to let love lead the way." At that moment, something shifted in the air. The words resonated, echoing against the walls of solitude built around fear. As more voices grew louder, intermingling in a vibrant symphony, the divide between the two groups began to blur. The moment swelled, a shift felt deep within the heart of the community. This was their chance to heal, to embrace one another. Let us paint over hate. Mike called out, reaching for the hopes of everyone surrounding him. Let us create a mural unlike any other. This wasn't merely about paint or art, this was about their stories uniting in a shared purpose. And as brush joined canvas, they breathed life into something transformative. Smiles erupted, barriers crumbled. It wasn't just a moment, it was a movement, reminding them that love, understanding, and true connection could craft a legacy out of color, unity, and resilience. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the fair, Mike realized something profound. Change didn't just begin with a mural or an event. It sparked right in these shared moments where colors converged and hope soared. Yet amidst their jubilance, he knew deep down that their journey wasn't finished. Their story continued to weave through every brush stroke, every smile, and every heart that chose to believe in something greater. This was just the beginning. If you've journeyed with us this far and felt that surge of hope, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to stay tuned, because more transformation is coming your way. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this beautiful community thriving. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, and let us keep this energy alive together. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this story unfold. Your support means the world. Let us stand together for change.